Hello, everyone. This rainy evening, I am dictating selection number 38 for you. I won't be able to do the whole thing for you because it is too long, and I don't know, I don't think my phone will let me record it, all of it. So I'll just give you the majority of it, and then once you get to 80, you'll hear 80 words per minute, you'll be able to hear the whole thing. So here we are, selection number 38, 854 words, but some will be missing. Subject is payment for services. This is jury charge at 60 words per minute. I know with me saying all that, by now you must be ready to write. Let's write. Members of the jury, let me first commend you for the very careful attention that you have been paying to the testimony in this case and to the arguments of counsel. It is a rather unusual case. The plaintiff, Florence Doolin, is seeking a verdict at your hands against Agnes Rowland, administratrix of the estate of James Porter, deceased, the defendant. It is the contention of the plaintiff that she, a stranger not related to James Porter, rendered valuable services to Mr. Porter beginning in 1945 and up to March 19th, 1956, when Mr. Porter died. That there was no payment in cash made by Mr. Porter to Mrs. Doolin during that entire period, about 11 years, that she did receive her board and lodging, but that she was promised by Mr. Porter that he would compensate her for her services by providing in his will for her. That, in general, is the contention of the plaintiff. She says that no will was found making any provision for her after Mr. Porter's death, and therefore she says she is entitled to receive from the estate of Mr. Porter, from the defendant in this case, the reasonable value of the services which she rendered in reliance upon the promise of Mr. Porter to compensate her by providing for her in his will. To substantiate her claim, she produces the testimony of a large number of friends and acquaintances of Mr. Porter and of Mrs. Doolin. It isn't necessary to review in detail all of the evidence submitted by these various witnesses, but it is sufficient to summarize that testimony with regard to the services rendered by Mrs. Doolin in the following brief sentences. It is admitted in the pleadings that beginning June 15, 1945 and up to February 1st, 1946, the plaintiff, at the request of Mr. Porter, acted as his housekeeper and cared for his sister who was ill and incapacitated. It is also admitted in the pleadings that $35 per week was the fair and reasonable value of the services rendered during that rather short period. Mrs. Doolin, according to the testimony, continued to act as the housekeeper in the various homes to which Mr. Porter moved to from time to time. She did all the housework, cooked, cleaned the house, did a lot of extra work in the way of taking care of apartments which were rented to tenants in the house which they occupied as their residence, and also in the other house which they occupied as their residence, and also in the other house on 6th Street, which was owned by Mr. Porter, that was rented out. There is some testimony that she also helped in taking care of merchandise purchased by Mr. Porter in his business, that she helped to make that merchandise sellable. You had the testimony of Mrs. Lawrence, who said she was engaged in an employment agency. She gave it as her opinion that $45 was the reasonable value in addition to board and lodging for all of the services which the witnesses claim Mrs. Doolin rendered over the period beginning about 1952, when the 6th Street house was acquired.